Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Woohoo! I know you liked it. That's Miss Sorrells. I'm here today to teach adding integers with different signs. Today you should already have this one filled in. Mr. Nelson, in his crazy desk, we cannot find the paper. So this one should already be filled in, and then today we're going to focus on this side over here. So you go ahead and write this down. Oh, sorry, this ladybug's in the way. Move it. Okay. So it is adding integers with different signs, and then that's meaning there's a positive and a negative. So there's one of each today. Okay. So pause the video, go ahead and write that down, get your thinking cap on, and then let's get ready to go. Alright, so thanks for getting that down. Let me zoom in here. So today we're going to focus just on this. Now, let's start with writing our steps, and then we'll go back and give examples. Okay, so step 1 is going to be, you're going to add, actually not add, okay, this is what's weird. With adding, we're going to end up subtracting, and you're going to see why in a little bit. Okay, but so step 1 is actually to subtract the two numbers. Now remember, when we're dealing with negatives, negatives mean the opposite of. So really, like when you're adding, you're going to do the opposite of it, and you're going to subtract. Okay? And in this case, it's going to be the larger digit minus the smaller digit. Okay? It doesn't matter. Don't compare this negative's bigger, this negative's smaller. It's just forget the sign and do larger digit minus smaller digit. Okay? Step 2 is going to be to use the sign of the larger digit. Okay? So you're going to subtract and then look at your two numbers. Whichever digit is larger, you're going to use that sign. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and separate this. Separate this. Okay? Alright, so let's look at our first example here. Today, a little bit different, not to confuse you. We still have the red side, but instead of yellow, we have white. And some of you will actually get the red and yellow ones in class, and some of you are going to get the red and white ones. Okay, so red is still negative, white's going to be positive in this case. So the first problem we're going to look at is negative 3 plus 4. Okay, so our first row of numbers we want, with the counters, we want to represent negative 3. So that would be 3 reds. Okay, and you're just watching. Then for the second row, we want a positive 4. The plus sign goes along with the 4, so positive 4. And you can quickly see which one has more. Okay, and the one that has more is obviously the positive, because if you compare a 4 to a 3, there are more 4s. Now, what I want to tell you is you have a new vocab word, and this is called a zero pair. When you have a positive and a negative together, that is identified as a zero pair. A positive and a negative cancel each other out. Okay, and so that's where 0 comes in. It's worth nothing. And then it's a pair, obviously, because there's 2. So red and white pair means 0 pair, 0 pair, 0 pair. When you say 0 pair, it means they're worth nothing. So we can push that aside, and we are left with 1 white. Well, what does 1 white mean? It means 1 positive. Okay, now let's go back and look at our steps if we were to do it without the counters. So first step said subtract the two numbers, the larger digit minus the smaller digit. So ignoring negatives and positives, the 4 is larger. So if you do 4 minus 3, you get 1. Okay, then the second step says use the sign of the larger digit. Well, what's bigger, the 4 or the 3? We said the 4 is bigger, and so it's a positive number, so your answer is going to be positive as well. So you should start to kind of visualize in your head which one will have more counters, and that's the sign that you're going to use. Okay, now let's look at another example, and this time you're going to draw a picture to go with it. So 5 plus a negative 3. Again, the parentheses is in there because it is going to just separate the plus sign and the negative. Okay, and so today we're going to draw 5. Our first row should be a positive 5. So 5 circles, and they are positive, so let's put the plus sign in it. Okay, give you a second to do that. And then the second row, this is 5. The second row is going to represent negative 3. So that's 3 circles or counters. and this time they're negative. Now, the way I want you to identify a zero pair is by circling them. So that's a zero pair, that's a zero pair, and that's a zero pair. And I want you to come over here and I want you to write zero pair so you have a visual reminder. This will also be in your classroom on your word wall to utilize to remind you what a zero pair is. So what that means is all of these can be ignored, and what are you left with? You're left with 2 positive. So positive 2. Okay, let's go back and do it without the counters. If I subtract the two numbers, the larger minus the smallest, 5 minus 3 is 2, and this time my positive again is the larger number, so my answer is positive. Alright, so now let's go back on the other side. We drew a picture with the counters. Now let's come over here and draw a picture for each with the number line. Okay, so negative 3 plus 4, so you need to draw your number line. Zero's in the middle. 1, 2, 3. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. Okay. Now, the first number is where you start on the number line. So this tells us that we're starting at negative 3. Always the first number tells you where to start. So you're going to put a dot above there. Now this says plus 4. Plus 4 means you're going to go in the right, in the direction to the right, because it's a positive. If it were negative, you go to the left. So this one means move to the right 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's where you stop. That's a horrible arrow. Okay, and so that would be your picture. If drawing the arrow is kind of hard, you can do bunny hops, 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right, and then just draw your arrow above, but the arrow is required. Okay, let's look at this one. 5 plus a negative 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so that I don't have to list every single number, I'm going to count by 2s. Okay. Alright, so 5 plus a negative 3, I start at positive 5. And this time it's a negative 3, so that means I'm going to move to the left 3 because negative numbers go towards the left of the number line. So I need to go 1, 2, 3 to the left, and that's exactly where my arrow would end up, is at positive 2. And what did we get for our answer? Positive 2. Okay, so starting point is the dot. The line is how many spaces you move, and then the arrow is where what represents your answer. Alright, so one more thing. Let's see how I can organize this here. These two go together. Okay, and then those two go together. Now we're going to have a challenge problem. Okay, don't panic because you hear challenge. But what's going to happen here is this is going to be on your homework too, and a Google Doc question, so listen up. You don't want to hear me sing again, do you? If you're looking or listening to music or staring at the TV right now, back to math. Okay, give us a couple more minutes. Alright, so let's say we have negative 8 plus 3 plus a negative 2. Okay, this you have to apply order of operations. And order of operations means you have to do the operations in a certain order. When it's just addition and subtraction, you get to go just straight left to right. Okay, so you're not going to do negative 8 and negative 10 or negative 2 together. You've got to go left to right. So first you need to do these two. So let's try this without the counters. Okay, so we're ignoring this and go back up to step 1. You're going to subtract the two numbers because it's an addition problem with different signs. One's a negative and one's a positive. Okay, so that's why we don't want to follow this square. We want to follow this one. And we're going to subtract. What's 8 minus 3? It's 5, so I know my digit's going to be 5. Now let's pick out whether it's negative or positive. Okay, well there's an 8 and it's negative, and there's a 3 and it's positive. 8 is obviously larger, so we're going to use, step 2 says use the sign of the larger digit. So this answer is negative 5. So now I've kind of narrowed the problem down to just negative 5 plus a negative 2. Now, this takes us back to yesterday because now we can see, well, I have a negative and a negative. Okay, so you having to decipher which square to use is going to be your job. If they're both the same sign, go back, throwback Thursday, go back over here even though it was Monday. And then if it's over here, if you have different signs, you've got to do this one. Okay, so yesterday you learned you would just do number plus number like you normally would. 5 plus 2 is 7, and then it's obviously the negative. If you need to visualize a picture, have at it, okay? So 5 counters, and they're all negative, and then 2 counters, and they're both negative, which would leave you with negative 7, okay? So you just work those from left to right. Alright, I know both of these examples ended up with a positive number, but just keep in mind that the answer is not always positive. Don't make that assumption. You use the sign of the larger number. It just so happened in both of these, the positives were the bigger number, okay? I know, just tell me how good my singing was tomorrow. I know, I'll take all the compliments I can get. Please fill out the Google Doc. Keep up with this paper, otherwise you have to copy both today's and tomorrow's, which is no bueno. Okay, and we will see you in class tomorrow. Take the questions part seriously. Fill in any questions that you have so we can start the class with those tomorrow. All right, y'all have a great night.